Well, thanks, Teams in AI, for inviting me today to talk in the AI Accelerator 2021 program. Um, this is the 6th year you run this program, but I think this time it's even more exciting, isn't it? It's if I see that you're focusing now on projects that were built during the past hackathons, like the International Women's Day hackathon you ran last March. And I think it's an amazing, great opportunity to take those projects to the next level, learning from teams visit everywhere. I saw they were so diverse. That's amazing. And I think that, well, this after this initial week, you guys are going to focus on your projects covering different topics like the one I'm going to talk today. So ethics of AI. So let's start.
Recording in progress.
Let me say again that I'm really, really happy to be part of this. So now let me share my screen and hope that this is going to work. And I'm going to share the right one. So yeah, here I am. So, well, and I'm going to start before going into the details, just with a brief introduction of myself. And well, I'm Susana Duran. As Elena said, I'm computer engineer. I have a technical background. Currently, I'm VP of engineering at Sage. It's a British multinational software company. And I'm working at the AI lab. I'm working right now on digital assistants, working on digital experiences, trying to make the interactions of our customers in a different way, let them deal with our solutions in a completely different way through AI. Before, I was studying different stuff, project management, usability, and other things. But I also was CTO of different startups. So I just worked with from small business to the biggest one, like I'm right now. And after joining Sage, which was almost 7 years ago, I was appointed as technical fellow. So I've been advocating and evangelizing technology and AI and ethics of AI. Since then, my spare time, I'm professor as well. And I want to highlight that I've been always working with different organizations which aim to increase the visibility of women in tech. So, well, that's me. And now after this brief intro, let's start with this. Let's start, and I'm going to start with a question. So, what would you think about someone that says that women are worse programmers than men? Or a person that says that the Black people, it's likely to be a repeat offender more than white people? Or a Latino person is less likely than a white person to pay off their loan on time? You would probably say that this person is racist, misogynistic, or simply that their values are not the right ones, isn't it? You would never empower that person to make important decisions like evaluating the loan, interviewing you for a job, or judging you if that hypothetical case occurs. But all these sentences and similar ones have been the outcome of AI-based solutions. Those systems decided that loans should not be granted to a Latino person, and just because the color of your skin, they decided that you will be a repeat offender, or because your gender or your age, you don't reserve your dream job. And well, humans, all of us, are reinforcing our own bias in AI. We are letting AI take decisions like the previous ones that would never be allowed to a human. And I could stop this talk now because we already know what is ethically correct and what is not. It doesn't matter if we talk about AI outcomes or about human behaviors. Bad is bad. But I definitely want to share with you more. So let's keep on with the next one. And now I would like you to wonder why we should be worried about this. Why? And well, what I just said, I think it sounds like an issue, doesn't it? We need to worry about all this because AI is everywhere. 8 out of the 10 biggest companies in the world are technology companies that are heavily invested in AI. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, so Google, Facebook, Tencent, and others. AI is embedded in your phone, from your voice assistant to your photos app or the traffic navigation app. Is it in your daily searches on the internet, on the shopping recommendations, helping with credit card detection, and so on? But we need to think the implications of following those outcomes. When you get suggestions from movies or for the shopping recommendations, is it clear why they were suggested? What pattern was Netflix or Amazon following to suggest that? Are they guiding us or are they influencing us? And for instance, are these smart replies, like the ones that you can see on the screen now, are the right ones to create those automated responses? They have read and understood your messages. Were you aware of that fact? Or when we talk about algorithms to detect faces, are those algorithms used in an ethical way? And what is its accuracy? I don't think it's 100%. Therefore, if it's less, what happens when it fails? There are a lot of questions like these ones, but think that AI is everywhere. But we should challenge at least once those black box algorithms and know what it's going there. So let's see some more examples where the AI outcome was a clear ethical failure. And AI has been quite successful with images. Images are labeled so you can search in a better way later. And that's a pretty common feature. So in 2015, Google Photos algorithm auto-tagged pictures of Black people as gorillas. Google's first reaction was to ban gorillas everywhere in that algorithm. But later, Google decided to remove labeling, saying that image labeling technology was still early in its initial days, and it was not enough good, and it was nowhere near perfect. Well, this lack of diversity that we had to identify or tag pictures have been also impacting other features, like these ones. The first one, it's a camera. It's a camera that doesn't recognize the young lady. It's not blinking. She's just smiling. The other well-known example is face detection, where in this case, it's not detecting the black guy. Obviously, all these systems work perfectly well with white men. So here, we see the importance of diversity in the data you use to train any AI solution. Okay, in a different area, we can review this case. The autonomous car. The autonomous car must also undertake considerable amount of training in order to understand the data that it's collecting and to be able to make the right decision in any imaginable traffic situation. We make moral decisions every single day. So when a driver chooses to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting a jaywalker, they are making a moral decision to shift the risk from pedestrians to the people in the car. Now, imagine an autonomous car with broken brakes going at full speed towards a grandmother and a child. By deviating a little, one can be safe. So this time, it's not a human driver who is going to take the decision, but the car algorithms. Who would you choose, the grandmother or the child? And do you think there's only one right answer? Okay, a different one was the case of Tay. Tay was a bot on Twitter that was launched by Microsoft in 2016 with the personality of a teenager. It was there to learn from humans, but in less than 24 hours, it learned to be racist, sexist, and many other awful things, so it was disabled. It wasn't an experiment, but it was AI learning from humans with no supervision. So imagine what could happen if based on those learnings, Ty could have taken important decisions. Wow. And a similar topic is justice. And risk assessment tools are designed to do one thing, taking the details of a defendant profile to generate a recidivism score. A single number estimating the likelihood that he or she will reoffend. So a judge then factors that score into tons of decisions that can determine what type of rehabilitation services particular defendants should receive, whether they should be held in jail before trial, and how severe their sentence should be. So in this example, the lowest score was given to the real repeat offender, so letting him go and accusing the other in a much severe way with no reason. The logic for using such algorithm tools is that you can accurately predict criminal behavior. You can allocate resources accordingly, whether for rehabilitation or for prison sentences. And in theory, it also reduces any bias influencing the process, because judges are making decisions on basis of data-driven recommendations and not based on their gut feeling. However, as you can see, bias is still there. Let's see another dimension. We don't usually take into account this one, but it definitely has ethical implications. Creativity and culture. And these are two clear examples. In 2016, a Rembrandt painting, the next Rembrandt, was designed by a computer and created by a 3D printer. 351 years after the painter's death. So to achieve such a technological and artistic prowess, 346 Rembrandt paintings were analyzed pixel by pixel and upscaled by deep learning algorithms to create a unique database. Every detail of Rembrandt's artistic identity could be captured and set the foundations for an algorithm capable of creating an unprecedented masterpiece. To bring the painting to life, a 3D printer recreated the texture of brush strokes on the canvas for an impressive result that could trick almost any art expert. But here, who can be designated as the author? The company which orchestrated the project, the engineers, the algorithm, Rembrandt himself. In 2019, we have another example. The Chinese technology company Huawei announced that an AI algorithm was able to complete the last two movements of Symphony No. 8, the unfinished composition that Franz Schubert started in 1822, 197 years before. So what happens when AI has the capacity to create works of art itself? If a human author is replaced by machines and algorithms, to what extent copyrights can be attributed at all? Can And should an algorithm be recognized as an author? Should those algorithms enjoy the same rights as an artist? Well, that's part of that ethical dilemma. So let's see the last example that I wanted to share with you. And I want to add the area when I'm currently working on. This is an area where we have been perpetuating stereotypes and biases for a long time. Virtual assistants like Siri, Cortana, and Alexa perform functions historically given to women. They schedule appointments, look up information, and are generally designed for communication. They are female voices designed to be obedient and accept your orders. Assigning gender to these AI personalities may say something about the roles we expect them to play. And AI personalities may say something else. This has improved over time. Apple and other technology companies have adjusted now how their assistants react to suggestions and questions beyond the typical use cases envisaged for their systems. So now, rather than blushing, for example, Siri now has a more underwhelming, I don't know how to respond to that response for sexist comments. Other changes in recent years have included encouraging users to say please and thank you as they interact with AI. So next time that you ask Alexa or any other virtual assistant for the weather forecast, please don't forget to say thanks. And well, as I said before, we should be worried about the impact of AI, about the ethics of AI. That set of values and principles that we need to define, accept, and apply, obviously, to our AI algorithms. So we will know that they will behave accordingly to our own human values. Let's see some principles that we should definitely follow. And first off, AI should reflect the diversity of our society. So AI is not only as unbiased as the data, it has been given by humans. So it's no surprise that AI models tend to embody human biases. Examples of that bias are quite well known. And we have, I think recently, I'm sure you have heard quite a lot about facial recognition issues, but there are many others. And the consequence of biased outcomes can be critical. And now large companies such as IBM and Google have started researching and addressing some of those ethical and privacy issues. But in general, this is a matter that needs to be solved by absolutely everyone who inputs data into AI. Secondly, the creators and operators of AI should be accountable. We have learned that users build a relationship with AI and start to trust it after just a few meaningful interactions. With trust comes responsibility. So AI needs to be held accountable for its actions and decisions, just like humans. And unlocking the AI black box and providing transparency on AI's decisions making and this will ensure human creators and operators understand how AI acts on our behalf. So we can trust that its recommendations and findings are reliable and have not been compromised. And finally, we need to ensure the privacy of users. And that's an important one because then we need to increase the security of the whole solution. And in this area, there are some ongoing initiatives like federated learning, which is a new way of learning that does not require users to actually share their data. Data stays in the local system or the device, like the mobile device, and instead of being set to or stored in a central cloud server, the data is stored in the device. So the privacy is guaranteed. And This method is pretty new, but it allows us to increase the data diversity by enabling those models to benefit from diverse local datasets that never would be shared in another way. So if you are interested, you can read the UNESCO recommendations on ethics of AI. And although it's still a draft of 24 pages, you can find in their website that covers many, many areas. And UNESCO is not the only one doing this. This is a really important topic, and many organizations have, over the world, have started similar initiatives as well. So next time you develop, design, or test your AI solution, please think about all the possible outcomes that that system would generate. And what would you think about them if they were made by a human? Because a bad behavior is always a bad behavior, and do the right thing should be done by humans, but also by our machines. So that was all what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you so much, Susana, for the talk. I had a couple of questions. You were talking about driverless cars and how, for example, if there was the grandma and the child, who would you hit if the brakes were broken? In that situation, because you were saying that the AI should be held accountable, in that situation, I had two questions. Would you suggest that we hold the driver accountable, the company, or the actual algorithm? And also, how would you suggest we hold AI accountable? Is that by punishing the company, or is that by stopping the algorithm? Or
when we said that the AI needs to be accountable, it's not the machine itself. It's the creators and the operators, the ones that need to be accountable. So they need to understand that anything that they create is going to be accountable. Therefore, there's a consequence of any wrong decision. In that case, the car, the system needs to decide based on the data that has been used to train the system, and there's more than one decision. There's more than one response that we can use to respond, to react. But it's the car in that case, the one that will decide what is the best one. And it's not only about the grant. So, and I was saying that there's more than one answer, because there's the grandmother, that's the child, but also there's the people inside the car. So what is going to be the response? We actually don't know. And that's the problem. We actually don't know what is going to be the decision that the algorithm is going to take. So that's why absolutely any data or any algorithm used to make those decisions needs to be done having in mind these values and the human behaviors, but the good ones, not the others. So at the end, the one accountable would be the company that it's creating that algorithm, because it's the one that has been training the algorithm. It's the one that has been allowing these bad decisions, and that's why it's so difficult to have those autonomous cars out there, because even in the best situation, even if there was, from our point of view, there was not other option to take that decision, it was an algorithm, the one who killed or to hit someone. So it's quite difficult to go through these kind of dilemmas without having a guilty side. So someone that has, the one that has taken the decision needs to be a human at the end. Well, and you know that those cars need to have a driver, a real driver there, because letting at the last one that takes the decision can be the human. So it's really difficult. Definitely for autonomous cars, have these moral decisions, that ethical decisions added into the car, because at the end there will be always that decision.
Okay, thank you so much. You were also saying that it's like there's less women in the field of like AI, and like, could you suggest any barriers there are for women to get into AI, and how any women can like overcome said barriers?
Well, there are less women in AI because there's just a few women in technology, and the barriers are the same. This is about what we have learned since we were very young, that technology is not for women and things like that. These are not real barriers, you know. It's if you like it, you can do it. And above all, without having diverse creators, diverse programmers, diverse designers, diverse testers, we cannot be sure that the solutions that we're going to create are good enough, because they are not going to take into account our point of view. So by having this diverse ecosystem of, in this case, women in the AI field, we will ensure that the algorithms and the solutions that we are creating are taking into account our own point of view. So it's, if you like it, you need to go for it.
Okay, thank you so much. Someone on the YouTube live stream has asked, will AI ever feel emotions like humans feel?
Feel emotions? Well, it depends. I remember a similar question years ago about, and it was about creativity, but AI would be able to create art. I would say, I don't think in the coming years, in the near future, this is going to be possible. AI, general AI, it's still not here. And emotions, yeah, of course, can be faked, but the system, the solution needs to be aware of itself, and that's not possible so far. Therefore, these feelings and these emotions are quite hard to be defined. Of course, you can fake them and have this kind of happiness or sadness depending on the external situations, but it's not going to be the same than human emotions. I don't think so. However, I said a similar thing about art, and a few years after, AI start creating paintings like the ones that I was showing from Rembrandt. So who knows?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for answering the questions and for such a great talk introducing the ethics, which is going to be very vital for all the participants to think about while they're making their solutions. We'd really like them to think about the ethical implications of their solution and how they can possibly change that to make sure that it's as ethically right as possible. So thank you so much for giving us things to think about relating to what to do in terms of ethics and AI. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks. It was a pleasure.
Recording stopped.